Counselor, if they had him on more, would they have brought it?
Not necessarily. I think that in trying to evaluate plea negotiations for criminal defendants like General Flynn, a lot of what you see with regard to what he pleads guilty to is balanced against the type of information that he can provide. And so none of us know what he's saying. None of us know what he's going to tell the special counsel. But I don't believe that the nature of his offense, which I agree is fairly the type of sentence that he's going to get, which is almost zero here, is a great deal for him. But I'm not so sure you can interpret that as saying that he didn't commit other crimes or that necessarily that his cooperation is going to be not all that helpful.
So put your Holland and Knight hat on and not your hat as a former U.S. attorney. You'd have a field day with someone who admitted to the felony of lying.
No, I think that's right. I think that if you look at General Flynn, this is someone who both President Obama and Attorney General Yates had warned folks not to trust. This is an individual who was terminated from his job as National Security Advisor because he was untruthful to the Vice President. And now this is someone who has pled guilty to a felony providing false information to an FBI agent. And so his credibility as a witness, his ability to be believed on other significant matters has been significantly damaged by his own conduct. And so the special counsel, if he intends to use him to provide information as to others, is going to have to corroborate that. Is going to have to find independent evidence that supports whatever he says about anyone else. So his value as a witness, quite frankly, is not all that great, despite the fact of the significance of the plea itself.
Okay. To your response of a moment ago, is it implied that he does have information on someone else?
I believe so. I think that if you look at the plea agreement in and of itself, it has a cooperation piece of it. Paragraphs 7 and 8 of the plea agreement really speak to the cooperation. And I think it is implicit in the agreement that the special counsel believes that he will provide what we call substantial assistance in the investigation or prosecution of another. And certainly he anticipates providing that kind of substantial assistance to the special counsel in order to get the very low sentence that he's been promised, which is practically nothing and a very small fine. So both sides have incentives here, but General Flynn has every incentive now to provide as much information as he possibly can. He may have already sat down for interviews, but no, this plea agreement is built for a cooperator, and he has every incentive now to cooperate with the special counsel. Now, that doesn't mean what he has is of all that value. We just don't know at this point because we have no idea what he's saying or the individuals that he's talking about.
You're a former United States attorney. Harry Litman is also a former United States attorney. In the New York Times, he said that this all portends the likelihood of impeachable charges being brought against the President of the United States. Do you agree with that?
You know, I just think that Professor Litman has gotten a little bit ahead on this. I think that what happened yesterday is significant for kind of three reasons. I think, one, this is the National Security Advisor for the President of the United States. It's one of the most significant jobs in government. And so the President relies on his advice for the national security of our country, and the fact that he committed a felony while National Security Advisor is significant. I also think it's important, as we talked about, because he's cooperating. And then I also think it's significant because of the message that it sends. If you look at his day yesterday compared to that of Paul Manafort, Mr. Manafort didn't cooperate. He got multiple felonies. Every crime they could think of, they dropped on his head. Decades of exposure of prison time, $11 million bond package just to get out from under house arrest, compared to General Flynn, who walked in, walked out, he's on his own PR, and he's probably not going to spend a moment in prison. So the messaging is important. However, there are two important caveats. One, as we talked about, that General Flynn's credibility as a witness has been damaged, is damaged, and most people would find him to be unbelievable unless it's corroborated. And then secondly, that the case in and of itself is it doesn't show any substantive charges. What you have as plea agreements for both Papadopoulos and General Flynn are what we call process crimes. These are crimes of lying. But there's been no allegations to date and no evidence presented in any of the papers that have been filed in open court to support a substantive count of collusion, conspiracy, or anything like that. Now, that may come, but to date, there's
Right.
simply been no
Yep.
evidence of that, and I think that's
And
where
that
the
goes-
professor extends.